Hey, what's going on, guys? So in this video, I want to talk a little bit about starting a business as a web developer. So this applies to freelancers as well as people that want to start a company from scratch. And I don't claim to be any kind of business mastermind or business advisor or anything like that. I've just done this myself. And I just want to kind of share some tips and some guidelines to how to get started if you want to start a company or if you want to start, promoting yourself as a freelancer. And we're going to talk about things like starting a business plan. We're going to talk about the different legal structures like sole proprietorships and LLCs and s-corps, and then also like branding, your website, your portfolio, taking payments from clients and creating client proposals, stuff like that. All right, so we're going to look at some slides and just I'm going to give you some information that I think can be helpful. So let's go ahead and jump in. All right, so we're going to jump right into it and start at the very beginning. So the very first thing you want to do is find a place to work. And many of you probably already have that, but just make sure it's a quiet place where you're not going to be bothered. For the most part, I think if you're doing web development, you're probably going to start off in your home. So a home office. I have a finished basement. That's where I set up my office, my studio. You could do the commercial space thing, but I think most of us don't have that type of money when we're first getting started, and I don't even think it's worth it, especially now with COVID, having people come in. When I started out, I was doing computer repair as well, so people would bring their computers in, I'd fix them, and they'd come pick them up. I'd also do consultations for web development. But like I said, with COVID, I don't know if that's such a good idea. There are shared spaces as well. Again, probably not the best thing to do right now, but hopefully, once all this crap clears up and life goes back to semi-normal, you could look into a shared space. It's much cheaper than a commercial space, and it gives you a place to go out of your house if that's what you're looking for. You want to get all the supplies that you need for your business. We're pretty lucky as web developers. It's not like being a landscaper where you need a truck, you need a trailer, a lawnmower, all these tools and stuff. We just basically need a laptop, a decent laptop, a desk, and maybe license some software. So there's really not much that we need to get started. Now, every business should have a decent business plan that helps guide you through each stage of starting and managing your business. You can kind of think of it as like a roadmap to get your business to where you want it and to just describe what it is you offer. And I had some trouble with this because when it comes to this type of stuff, I'm not very organized. But I did find a lot of resources online to help me create an easy to understand plan that I could follow. Because one big mistake that you don't want to make is just jumping in too quick with little to no thought about, where you want this business to go and what you're going to offer, how you're going to get paid, things like that. So there's traditional plans that are many pages long, but I would probably suggest a lean business plan that contains pretty much the key elements, things like the company description and mission statement, anyone you plan on having working for you, your legal structure like a sole proprietorship, LLC, etc. And I'm going to get into that in the next slide. Services that you offer, pricing, the type of customers you're looking to acquire, so small business owners, whatever, and maybe some market analysis. Now, this site here, which is SBA.gov, it's the U.S. Small Business Administration, and this can pertain to anyone in any country creating your business plan. But this is a really good resource. It tells you a lot about creating a business plan, and it has some examples. And I'm pretty sure that this Andrews plan is the one that I used many years ago as kind of a template. So I'm going to pull that up real quick just to kind of show you what that entails. So this is a lean business plan. I think it's like 6 or 7 pages. So basically we have an executive summary with the product that they'll be selling. In your case, it's going to be probably services, the customers that you want to acquire, the future of the company, where do you see the company in 5-10 years, company description, including the mission statement, anyone you have working for you, the legal structure, such as a sole proprietorship or an LLC, market research of your industry, the advantages to your company, the service line, so basically the services that you're going to offer, the pricing structure you're going to use. You want to just, you want this stuff established before you go and start actually running your business. So marketing and sales, growth strategy, how are you going to scale your business? So stuff like that, and that's the end. So this is very clear and concise. So I would recommend using this as a template or something like this. All right, so you want to create a business plan. You also want to define which legal structure you're going to use. Now, there's different options here. There's a sole proprietorship, there's an LLC, limited liability company, an S-corp, and there's other ones as well, but these are kind of the most common for small business. Now, when I'm talking about this stuff, keep in mind I'm in the US. I have no clue how other countries work in terms of their business structures. So this part of this video might only pertain to the US. Now I'm going to give you kind of an example of what I did. So I started as a sole proprietorship, which is what I would recommend. And depending on where you live, that might entail certain things you have to do. I live in Massachusetts, so I had to just register for what's called a DBA, which stands for Doing Business As. And all I had to do was go to my city hall. I paid, I think it was like $40. This was many years ago, so it's probably a little more now. But once I got that DBA for my company, which at the time was called Tech Guy Computer Services, I could then go to my local bank and open up a business checking account. That way I could have checks with my company name. I could have a debit card with my company name as well, and I could take payments from people, which I'll talk about in a little bit. As far as what you want to choose, this is a pretty good website. This is LegalZoom and has some descriptions of each business type. So sole proprietorship, right here. So easy but risky. There's no liability protection. One owner, so only one person will run and own the business. You're the only investor, but you can have help from family and friends. Now, there's also LLC, which is limited liability company. So it's flexible. It offers liability protection, great for new businesses. If you're going to hire people, you might want to look into either an LLC or an S-corp, which is what I am now, which I'll talk about in a minute. When you file taxes, you separate the legal entity filing required with the state. So if you're going to go LLC or S-corp, then I would definitely recommend finding a good accountant to help you out, or some kind of advisor. My accountant has done everything for me in this aspect of my business. He does everything. If I have a question or I need something done, I have him do it. So my advice pretty much to everyone starting out would be sole proprietorship, get a DBA if your state requires that, and then when your business grows a little bit, if you want to hire people and stuff, move to either an LLC or an S-corp, which is what my company is now. And there's going to be different factors that go into, if you should choose LLC or S-corp. My accountant recommended S-corp mostly for tax reasons and the way that it works. So basically, I get, I have my business checking account. Anything that Traversy Media makes goes into that account, and then I have a salary that I take from my business. So basically, it's set up so every week my salary, which I chose, and of course, you have to make enough money to fulfill that salary, that comes out of the main business account and goes into my personal checking. And then when tax time comes around, I have to do taxes for myself, my personal taxes for my salary, and then I have to do my corporate taxes. So you basically file two sets of taxes. And it sounds complicated, but if you have a good accountant, it's not bad. You really don't have to do much. I mean, I just go in and sign papers. It's important that you trust your accountant. Find someone that has a lot of good recommendations and reviews, because it's priceless to have a really good accountant that you can trust that doesn't charge you an arm and a leg. So like I said, I would say sole proprietorship, if you're starting by yourself, you don't have employees or anything like that. And then once you start making a good amount of money and your business is growing, move to either an LLC or an S-corp and find a really good accountant. All right, so next, let's talk a little bit about payments and invoicing, because you want to have a way for your clients to pay you, obviously. And it might be multiple methods, especially if you're doing local work, like if you're building web apps and websites for local businesses. They might pay you with a check. They might pay you with a physical credit card, or maybe you'll invoice them online. So you need to figure that kind of stuff out. At the very least, I would say, get a business checking account at a local bank and look into your banks around you, and find ones that have good offers, that don't have bad penalties and stuff like that. Create a business checking account, get a business debit card, then set up a PayPal business account. And I believe for both your business checking and the PayPal business, you need some kind of proof of your business, and the DBA should do it. That's what I used, back many years ago. So PayPal allows you to take, obviously, PayPal payments and as well as credit card payments online, and you can integrate it into your website. You can also send invoices. Invoicing is very important. You want to give every client an invoice. You want to have a copy of that invoice for, tax reasons or whatever. And you should have your services that you provide, the cost, the company info, so your company info on it, as well as the client's company info, or individual, if it's just an individual. And there's different services. I mean, you have Stripe, you have Square. I actually used authorize.net back in the day, but they're not as popular now. And I could charge credit cards online, but they also gave me this virtual terminal that I could actually type physical credit cards into and charge them that way. But like I said, I don't think they're as popular anymore. So PayPal is really good. Stripe, there's some other invoicing software you can use. I created custom invoices because I got paid multiple ways. Some people would pay cash for computer repair. Some people would write checks, credit cards, online payments. So I just set up simple invoicing and make sure you always have an invoice ID so you can identify each invoice. All right, so once you get all the logistics and stuff handled, now it's time to start the fun part, which is creating your branding, your website, your company identity. So for branding, what I mean is anything that identifies either your company or you as an individual, if you're working under your own name, a specific color scheme, a logo, fonts, image styles on your website, and promotional material. These are all characteristics that identify your company, your products, and your services. So your brand should be the same across your website, your social media, any physical like business cards or pamphlets that you create. Vistaprint is a nice place to get stuff like that, physical flyers and stuff that you can create and customize, and it's really cheap. Social media is really important as well. So you definitely want a company Twitter account, a Facebook page, an Instagram account, share your work, network with other people. It's really important to network with people in your industry, LinkedIn and all that stuff. Now, once you've established somewhat of a brand for your company or you as an individual, you'll need a website. And in most cases, these days, less is more. You want a nice looking, clean website with just enough information. When I was doing this, 10 years ago or so, it was popular to have a ton of pages and content on your site. But I think over time, we realized that people don't really have that much patience. They're not going to read over 10 web pages with 10 paragraphs each. So I know you feel like you might want to explain everything you do, but that's not really the goal of your website. You can do that when you actually start talking with a potential client. I would suggest doing either a nice landing page with multiple sections, or maybe a 3-page website including your portfolio. Okay, you want to introduce yourself or your company, let people know what it is that you do, what kind of services you offer, and of course you want to include some of your work so they can see what you've done and what you're capable of. Now, I realize that when you're just starting out, you might not have a lot to put on your portfolio in terms of client work. However, you should have some personal projects. You shouldn't be starting a business if you haven't really built anything yet. And even if you have like a family member or a friend that needs a website or some kind of application, those are great to put on your portfolio if you don't have any client work yet. And I do have a separate video on creating a good portfolio, and if I remember, I'll try to link that in the description. All right, so once you have a website with some branding and some projects in your portfolio, you want to come up with some kind of pricing model. And I'll talk about this a little, but I can't tell you what to charge. This really varies a lot depending on your experience, where you live, what you offer, just so many different factors in pricing. Some developers charge by the hour. I didn't like to do this because to me, if you have a specific skill that allows you to do something really fast that really benefits your client, you're kind of gypping yourself if you're charging hourly. My pricing basically depended on two things: how much I thought the work that I was doing was worth for me, and how valuable it is to the client. So even if it's some kind of feature or something like that that took me 3 hours, if it significantly improves my client's workflow or gains them more customers or makes their lives easier in any way, then it's worth a hell of a lot more than 3 hours of labor. Another thing you could do is have fixed services for very specific tasks. Maybe you have some design skills and you can create packages where you design a website with a set amount of mock-ups. You create the HTML, CSS. Maybe you use something like Gatsby or WordPress or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter the actual technology. You can include a contact form, database functionality. If you have a fixed price of like $3,000 or something like that, you're very clear on what you're giving for that set price. Back when I was creating WordPress websites, I would do this, and if they wanted special features like maybe membership functionality with payments or something, that would be added on to the base price. So I mean, that's really all I'm going to say about pricing, because it can just vary in so many different areas. So just try to do some research, see what other people are doing, and make sure that you charge what you feel you're worth. Although keep in mind, if you're just starting out and you don't have much to show for your past work, you might have to, lower your prices a little bit temporarily. Now, it's really important that you and your client are on the same page when it comes to how much they're paying, what are they paying for, what are the exact services you're offering. I've had some pretty rough experiences with clients due to bad communication. So the best thing that you can do is create a clear proposal of what you'll be doing and how much they'll be paying. So include things like, are you doing the design? Are you providing, what types of functionality are you providing for this project? Are you offering support, and how long are you offering support? Hosting and domain, if you're including that or not. Some clients just expect that. A lot of people that aren't web developers or aren't tech savvy, they don't really understand how this works. They're paying you to build a website or some kind of application for their business, and a lot of them expect that a domain and hosting is just free forever. So you have to explain that it's an annual fee. Maybe you resell your own hosting, maybe you use a specific hosting provider, maybe they have their own. So you have to establish all of this stuff before you do anything, because if you don't, it's going to cause a lot of headaches and it's going to cause a lot of conflict with your client, which you don't want. So I would say outline all the work with an estimated timeline, and always give a longer timeline than you expect, because it's way better to deliver earlier than you say rather than later. Also have an exact quote for the exact work. This eliminates any confusion on what should or should not be included in the price. If they decide that they want to add something else later, which many clients do, then create a new proposal and of course have them sign these proposals as well. And you can find proposal templates online, but you'll probably want to create your own so you can tailor it to your services. I just created mine with like Microsoft Word back in the day, and just added all the services, the pricing and terms and all that. Okay, so once you have everything set up, you have your website, you have some portfolio projects, payments taken care of, you have your legal legal business entity and so on, you'll need some clients. So you'll want ways to get your name out there. I think the first step is making your website SEO friendly. I personally hate SEO. I used to offer it as a service and I hate it. So I would hire someone to do that for me, but at least make your, have good page titles and clear content, just the common sense stuff when it comes to SEO. Local businesses are a great way to start. I used to contact businesses that had either no website or an old crappy website, and write up a custom proposal of what I could do to improve their web presence. Don't just email them and say, your website sucks, I can do better. Let them know how you can make their business better, whether that's a better design, maybe accepting online payments, adding a blog to reach more people, whatever it might be, whatever you can come up with that you think would make their business better. So research their business and create a plan rather than just sending out these pre-made templates to every business, because that usually doesn't work too well. Online ads is another way to go. It can get pretty costly, but maybe look into, Google AdWords and Facebook ads. You can apply for freelancing gigs online as yourself, but you can also apply as a company. I did this with Upwork, which back then was actually called Odesk. So you can get work that way, although it's not usually that great paying, but it is something, you can add to your company portfolio. And of course, word of mouth is the best type of promotion, but it's something that takes a while to build up to. I would say most of my best clients came from word of mouth, but again, it takes a lot of work to get there. So the last thing I'm going to suggest is scaling your business at some point, not right when you get started. And this may include adding new services, as well as maybe adding new people, because if your client load is becoming too big for you to handle alone, you'll probably want to either find some good freelancers that you can have help you can outsource to, or even hire someone in-house. I started with freelancers from Upwork and some other sites as well. I did have a few bad experiences with people that just sucked, but I did end up finding some good developers that did some really good work at a fair price. You don't want to go with the cheapest you can find, because chances are their work will be crap, but also make sure that you're actually still making money by outsourcing. So it can be a little tricky, but you can find good help. I also ended up hiring 2 employees in-house at a certain point when I had my storefront, and this allowed us to take on more clients. You will need to have either an LLC or an s-corp to do this, and you'll also need to set up payroll. So again, find a really good accountant that can help you with this stuff. And you could also add new services. If you're just doing web apps and websites, maybe you could offer mobile apps or desktop apps, or maybe sell a certain type of product like a software as a service. Or if you can do design, you can do logos and business cards, or maybe even hire someone to do that stuff or outsource it. You could resell hosting, you could do SEO. What I used to do is I tried doing SEO on my own, which I just hated. So I found someone that could do it and would do it for cheap. So I would just offer it as a service and have that person basically help me out with it and just kind of upsell it, And I did the same thing with digital marketing. I don't know anything about digital marketing, but when I was running my business, I had that as a service that someone else would help me with. So it helps to really find other people to work with as well. And again, this is not something that you're going to do right away. This is if your business is becoming successful, where you're getting so many clients that you're having to turn them away because you're one person, you only have so much time. So if you're at that point, you want to start looking for help and looking at other people, that can help you scale your business. And you could always raise prices as well, because you're getting more work and you have more experience. So there's different things you can do, but again, this is something that is going to be happen later on down the road. It's fantastic if you can get to the point where you actually need to scale. All right, so that's going to be it, guys. And keep in mind, all of this is from my own personal experience. I'm not someone that gives business advice for a living or anything like that. I had a pretty successful small business for a while, and now a successful content creation, education business, whatever you want to call it. So take it with a grain of salt. This is from my own experience, and you definitely want to look into other resources aside from this single video. All right, but I hope you guys took something from this. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.